Welcome to my channel, Bumzibi Beauty. My name is Juliana. If you are new here, you are highly welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you are new or you are returning, I want to thank you for tuning into this video. I appreciate you guys for watching my video. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about my topmost 15 palettes of 2021. I tried to narrow it down to 10, but it wasn't happening. 2021 was a year of palettes. I'm telling you, it was a year of palettes. And as you know, palettes are my favorite part of makeup, so I had a lot in 2021 and I tried a lot as well. So I managed to limit it down to 15, so I'm going to be talking about my top 15. And what I've tried to do is talk about my top ones that people would also like. Not palettes that are like my personal favorite because of my preference. For example, I love red, so if you were to ask me my top 15, half of this palette would be red tone and red base palettes. So I've not done that. What I've done is universally top 15 palettes that you would love and that I love. So that's what I'm going to be sharing today. So the first one I'm going to show you is the Watch the Queen Conquer. So this palette is fairly new in my collection. I bought it during Black Friday and I tried it for the first time in December, and I've also got 2 videos on it on my channel. I did a swatch video and I did a demo of both sides because it's a two-toned palette. So this is the first side of the palette and this is the second side of the palette. If like me you consider pillowy palettes too bulky, then I've got a solution for you, because I deported my Love Tips palette and I deported it so easily. In fact, I wasn't expecting it to be as easy as that. So pretty much underneath each of this shade is a glue, or she's just glued down to the base of the palette, so you can easily take it apart if you want. So these are my shades from the Love palette. No damage, nothing, no chip. It was so easy to pull apart. So all I did was, for the Love Tips one, there is like a foam in it. All I did was pull apart the foam and pry this off the glue. Then I attach a magnetic base, which you can get on Amazon or anything. So there's a sticker in front of the base, and then the base is magnetic, and you can just easily put it on your palette. Yeah, so the palette was very easy to deport, and that really makes me happy. But this is definitely one of my favorite palettes of 2021, even though I only started using it in the last month of the year, but I can just see me using this palette a lot in 2022. Okay, the second palette on my favorite list is the Washina palette, Jamrock Washina pastel palette from Playing in Makeup by Yolanda this year, as she is really pushed the bars of eyeshadow palettes. Honestly, she's really done well for herself. They were one of my favorites in 2021 for sure. Every palette that she's come out with has really been a big hit. I've just loved every bit of her palette. But Washina palette is one of my favorites, and when I open it, you'll see why. This is a pastel palette. I mean, look at this. I mean, I have the ice cream palette, which I recommend if you don't like dark colors in your pastel, because that's got like bright sweet pinks and blues. Definitely one of my favorites as well. But these when it comes to pastel is my overall favorite, so definitely recommended one. So this is definitely one of my favorite palettes of 2021. Just gonna give you a quick swatch of 4 shades in that palette. That's a pastel palette. And most of the shimmers, they've got matching matte as well, which I love. I love to have a matching matte and a matching shimmer in a palette. I mean, look at that. That's a pastel palette. Absolutely beautiful. Another favorite of mine in 2021 is the Wilderness palette. This palette came out when I was on a low buy. Then it went out of stock. Oh my days, oh my days. I'm telling you, the FOMO was real. I went on the website and I just quickly signed up for an update when they restocked. The minute they dropped the second round, I was on it like a rush. Look at that. So beautiful. I mean, look at it. Look at it raw. And then look at the greens. Just the red and the greens in this palette. Oh, for the price that it is, absolutely beautiful palette. Definitely one of my highlights. In fact, if I was going to narrow this down to the top 5, this is going to be one of it. Definitely in my top 5. Shortly after Beauty Bay released the Wilderness palette, they released the Age of Opulence palette. Another favorite of mine in 2021. Look at that. I think this palette is actually still available, so if you never got your hands on it, I'm telling you, get your hands on it now before they run out of stock. This is An absolutely beautiful and gorgeous palette, honestly. And my eyes are so opened now. Before, I just kind of look at a palette, you know, on its own, but now my imagination just goes beyond the palette. Sometimes it's not about the whole palette, sometimes it's about a shade or two here, you know, that you use in combination with something else. But the colors in this palette on their own and as a palette, absolutely gorgeous. Is a definite must have. A surprise favorite for me is the BH Cosmetic Miss Clouds Lit List palette. I wasn't expecting to love this palette as much as I did, but the palette is so gorgeous. This row in the middle here, let's ignore the glitter there. That row in the middle, so beautiful, so metallic. It's like a high-end palette. You wouldn't think that this is a BH Cosmetics palette. So beautiful. I mean, again, I've got a video at least on my channel on this palette, and I'm just gonna quickly swatch this for you. I even got this palette on sales as well. For the value of this palette, the shimmers are gorgeous. They are really gorgeous. I am telling you, they are on par with high-end palettes. I don't even see what difference there is. I mean, they're not special shades, but in terms of the metallics and the shimmeriness of these shades, absolutely beautiful. The downside is that it's such a huge and big palette, but honestly, if you don't mind big palettes, this is a definite must-have. Another favorite of mine from BH Cosmetic in 2021 is the Passion in Paris palette. This palette is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, and this is not a big palette, so look at that. So beautiful. Again, I did a look on this palette. I mean, look at this row. And the blues. They are just so yummy. I'm gonna try and kind of not swatch everything, but this palette, I've got to swatch at least 2 shades here. I don't need to say anything else. Look at that. That is so gorgeous, so metallic and beautiful shades, and they stay all day. They don't crack, they don't fade. I don't know how they do it, but yeah, definitely Passion in Paris was one of my favorites of 2021. Now this next 4 palettes, I'm gonna count them as one because they are part of a series, and this is from Playing in Makeup by Yolando again. I literally laid my hands on this last month. They have like different names. I did them, feature them on my Black Friday haul, the third part of my Black Friday haul. I got 4 of them, so I'm gonna count them as one. I'm gonna cheat and count them as one. But these palettes are beautiful. They are mostly monochromatic. Some of them are not. I mean, look at this, to have like a purple in the midst of greens. So beautiful. I used this in one of my looks that I did recently with the liner. Is on my Instagram page. I used this as the shimmer. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. Look at this. Look at this color story. So yummy. And then even this, they are so beautiful. The metallics in this palettes are so beautiful. They are potty, they are yummy, and at least one shade is like a multi-chrome, duochrome, glittery kind of shades. They're not like a regular shimmer formula. This is like the shimmer formula, like Terramon's shimmer formula, you know, the ones with sparkles, different color of sparkles. I've taken a shade from each of those 4 palettes that I consider special shimmers for me anyway, that I love. I mean, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous, honestly. And the mattes, I don't know what she's put in the mattes. The mattes are beautiful. Either on a primer or no primer, whatever, they show up and they are so beautiful. Honestly, these palettes are beautiful. If you get something from Playing in Makeup by Yolando in 2022, let it be one of this palette, all of them, or whatever. I think there's about 9 or 10 of them in the series. They are like the browns, you know, pinks, and also the purples even. These are the first 4 I got during Black Friday because I didn't know how good they were going to be. I mean, she had a sales about, or another sales about 3 days ago, and I've got 4 more of this. Honestly, they are beautiful. if you buy some of this, you don't need to buy a new palette, a 7-7 palette, because the way I see that 7-7 palette is like a combination of all of these mini palettes. Or you could buy the 7-7 and skip this, but I recommend buying this one and skipping the 7-7 one, because this ones you can use as a palette by itself, so maybe one a day. I mean, look at this, just look at this. This is a look, this is 2 looks, 3 looks, depending on how you combine it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, who puts a purple in a mainly green palette? It's genius, absolutely beautiful. And this, look at this, £5 palette, and it takes you everywhere on a green level. I mean, you've got your mustard, you've got your lime green, dark green, shimmer, dark green matte, and a medium tone range of green in a £5 palette. This is absolutely genius. These palettes are genius. Alright, another of my favorites in 2021 are the Oden's Eye palette, the collaboration with Tina, Annette and Judy. So my favorite are these 2. I know that Annette's palette is now out of stock, so I can't recommend that, but I can at least show you. This is definitely one of my favorites of 2021. But since it's not available, let's talk about Tina's palette. So this palette amongst the 3 is actually my favorite, and I know that colors are not everybody's cup of tea, but it's not just the colors that makes it my favorite, it's the formula in this palette. This palette has a faultless formula. Both the shimmers and the matte, I've said this in both of my videos, you can watch my swatch videos. The shimmers are beautiful, luxurious and soft, and the matte equally beautiful formula. So every shade in this palette is beautiful, no scratchiness, just luxurious shimmer, and I love shimmer. This is a mostly shimmer palette, so for me it's so much my cup of tea. Swatching 4 shades. I don't even know what to say. Look at that. Oh, so yummy. Look how beautiful that is. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, if they ever bring an XM palette back in stock, then definitely this is another must have, because this is an unusual color story. I mean, the formulas are not perfect for me. About 1 or 2 of the shimmers I don't like the formula, but regardless of that, this palette is beautiful. The color story is absolutely gorgeous, and it's not something that you come across every day. I mean, for the special shade alone, this palette is worth it, and I can see why it's sold out. It's just not something that you come across every day. So look at that multi-chrome. So beautiful. Definitely understand why it's sold out, because it's an absolutely gorgeous palette, and it's a unique one. It's not like any other in the market. Tina's palette is a colorful palette, just like any other colorful palette in the market, even though, I mean, I do think that the formulas and the tones in a palette are quite unique and beautiful, but at the same time it's still a colorful palette. But Annette's it's unique. It's just unique, but both of them I definitely highly recommend. Yeah, I definitely recommend. And this is Tina's special shade. I mean, look at that. So equally gorgeous, especially if you love pink. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Can you see the shift in the shade? Gorgeous. Okay, next are the Blend Bunny Cosmetics palettes. Now I'm gonna count this as one. If you ask me which one is my favorite of the 2, of course it's gonna be the Search palette, because it's got shimmers, or I'm definitely gonna count this as one. This I discovered in 2021, and oh boy, they are gorgeous. I mean, this is the one that came out first. I've been hearing a lot of things about this palette, but because I had Vizia palettes, I thought to myself, how good can they be? They can be, you know, as good as my Vizia palette. And this is the first one that came out. So this is the blends. So there wasn't any shimmer, so there was nothing really to sway me to get it, because I mean, Vizia has a lot of matte. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't need it until they came out with the Search palette. And this is the Search palette. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. So all of this row, they are shimmers. So this second row here, all shimmers, absolutely beautiful. And the matte as well, I just like the way the tone is being arranged. So just above the shimmers you've got like your dark tones, and then you've got your neon shades here. This palette is gorgeous, honestly. Ultimate palette of 2021. Absolutely gorgeous. Swatching 6 of the shimmers. This is so beautiful. These shimmers are beautiful. I mean, at first I was a bit apprehensive as in they've been coming out with mattes. I mean, now introducing shimmers in their palette, can it be as good as the matte? But looking at the color story, the whole color story, I decided to give it a chance, and boy am I glad I gave them a chance. This black, I've never encountered a black that does not give fallout. This is the only black I use in any of my looks now. If I want to dip in any look, this is the palette I reach for, because there is no fallout, zero fallout. I always do my makeup before I do my high look, so I appreciate shades that don't give me any fallout, and this palette is absolutely gorgeous. I think the most pigmented of this palette that I'm aware of is not this one actually, it's in the blends palette. This blue shade is the only one I know that if you're not careful and you don't use a good brush, you could get fallout. But overall, oh, so pigmented and beautiful and blendable. If you're looking for a safe palette, you know, a palette that you would never go wrong, you will not go patchy on you, get your hands on this palette. They are so worth it, so worth it. So keep your eyes out on the sale. They've also got influencers that have discount codes for their palettes. Oh, honestly, get your hands on this palette. I know they came out with a new one, and I've looked at that new one and looked at my collection, and I can see that at least two of my palettes, if I combine them together, they give me the effects of the new ones that they've just come out with, the nude palette. So I'm not buying that unless it's like at some point I can get it for like 10% of the price. I don't know. I'm not so much into nude palettes, but yeah, absolutely gorgeous palette. Okay, another brand I discovered in 2021 is Nomad, and this is my favorite palette from Nomad. Currently, I recently bought some new palettes which I haven't used at all, so I'm not going to count it in this video, but as far as the ones I've tested and tried, this is my favorite. And if you know me, then there's no surprise here. I mean, look at that middle column here, absolutely gorgeous. And all the shades, I like the way the blues and the greens just differ from each other, honestly. And their formula is not everybody's cup of tea. You know, I don't know, we all do our makeup differently, but for me, I like to diffuse my mattes on my eyeshadow primers. I like to diffuse my matte, and this is just perfect when it comes to that. The shadows are soft, so you just need minimal kind of like placement on your lid. You don't have to go all the hard way, and if you overblend, you're going to blend them out into nothing, because you don't need much work. They just need diffusing on the lids, and honestly, they are beautiful. So I love their formula, and definitely this is my favorite of their palettes. And just a little disclaimer, if I was to be looking at this personally, you know, not in terms of this channel, I will pick the Express palette, the one with the reds. That's my absolute favorite, but I also know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. If I were to recommend one Nomad palette for 2021, then this will be the one. This, I think, is an overall favorite. You cannot go wrong with this one. I mean, with the color range, the lilac, the green, the blues, even the pop of red here, and the orange and yellow to blend any shade out or mix the shade. Even the blue here, it's a perfect palette. So definitely one of my favorites of 2021. Okay, let's talk about Unique palettes. Again, I'm just going to pull them as one. I have at least 3 of their collections, so I'm just going to show you 4 out of all of the collections. Unique is another brand that surprised me in 2021, and their palettes are gorgeous. Pricey, yeah, I cannot deny that they are quite pricey, you know, for a 6 pan palette, but the formulas, oh my days. I mean, this is the Tokyo palette volume 3. Again, I have at least 2 videos on Unique on my channel, but the palettes are beautiful and gorgeous. If I were to recommend a brand for you to try in 2022 based on my experience of 2021, definitely Unique is going to be one of them. This is the swatches of a 6 pan palette. I mean, look at that, how beautiful that is in a 6 pan palette. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I built that third one up. Let's try another palette. This is Tokyo volume 1, and these are the shimmers in a 6 pan palette. Swatched, just look at that in a 6 pan palette. The palettes are beautiful. This brand is so underrated. I don't know, for whatever reason. Could be because of the price, could be because they are based in UK, but they make the one of the best eyeshadow palettes that I tried in 2021. I mean, regardless of the fact that it's a 6-pan shade, you can do at least 3 looks in each of the palettes. I mean, the way they've put their shimmers together makes it so easy for you to have variety of looks. And I've always said shimmers always make a look, because think about it. If you had what, red with that shimmer, that's a look. Red with this shimmer, that's a look. Red even with the red shimmer, that's a look on its own. That and that, it's a look on its own. Combine these two with one shimmer, another look. So think about it, in a 6-pan palette, that is absolutely brilliant. I think for the value you get, and you know, for the outcome of the eyeshadow look, this is a very unique and so worth it palette. I mean, this is more or less a neutral palette, but I mean, look at that, this absolutely beautiful topper here, which is a duochrome formula. Look at that. I cannot recommend all their palettes enough. None. I can't even say don't buy anyone. It just depends on your color taste, the color story of the palette, and what you like to see, the colors you like and you're comfortable in a palette. But that's the only thing. Just pick one, pick your choice. But all of the palettes are equally beautiful, equal performance, and you know, whatever. Just pick the color story that absolutely speaks to you. But definitely highly recommended. This next palette won't come as a surprise if you've been on this channel for a bit, and it is the retro palette from Nyx. This is definitely one of my favorites in 2021. I was not expecting it to be a favorite at all, but from the minute I glanced at this palette, I set my eyes on the color story. I absolutely loved it, and when I laid my hands on it, it didn't disappoint either. I mean, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous palette, honestly. For mid-tone range, for pinks and roses, for burgundy, for me, it just surprised me. It definitely took me by surprise, and I'll just swatch a few of the shades. I mean, just so that you can get the tone in this palette. I mean, these are the tones. Definitely not my first. You would not have been my first choice, so I am so surprised. And I think for me, the pools are just this color, and this color, because they're so perfect with its other shades, it just makes the palette so perfect, so perfect. I can't talk about my favorite without talking about Colourpop, even though I've not used much of Colourpop's palette this year. In fact, I've only just bought from them recently. What I do with Colourpop is I tend to kind of like build a list, and then when they do a sale, some, you know, a very massive sale, then I would buy whatever has been on my list. But I just keep my eye out, you know, for any ones that stand out, because they pretty much release new palettes every week now. But I have to say, in 2021, the palette that definitely caught my eye from Colourpop is the Lush palette. Oh, if you have not seen this palette or used this palette, you are missing out. Again, I know it's colorful, not everybody's cup of tea, but this palette is absolutely gorgeous. And it's not a case of, oh, it's cheaper or whatever. It's just beautiful, beautiful palette. Just gonna quickly swatch these 4 shades for you. Look at that matte. Wow, the palette packs a punch. Honestly, I definitely think this is one of the best palette they came out with in 2021, and it's definitely one of my favorites of 2021. Alright, another favorite of 2021 are 2 palettes from Glam Shop, which I currently don't know where they are. I mean, what's my video without lost palettes? Is the Paprika palette and the Burgundy palette, and I'm hoping that you are seeing a picture of both palettes. With the Paprika palette, I actually did a look with it on my channel. I think it's about 6 months ago. Those 2 palettes are my favorite, and I really wanted to show you why they were my favorite, because they've got like special formulas in them that I love, because they're not like your fussy formulas. This is the Z Colorum palette, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Their shimmers are pretty much fussy. They're like glittery, and you really need a glitter glue to, you know, to use them. Now, these are the kind of formulas in that palette. So this is Fashion for Success, and this is what a swatch is like. Can you see how silky? It doesn't give any fallout. It just melts onto your lid. Got a lot of swatch party of Glam Shop palettes on my channel, and I mentioned that this formula, they are the best as far as I'm concerned. I mean, look at that. No fallout, no glittery shadow falling all over the place or scatteriness. Look at that. It literally just lays on the skin. It's almost like there's some sort of binder in them, some moisturizing binder that just makes it glide on the finger or glide, you know, on the eyelids. I just love them. And those are the formulas in the Paprika palette and the Burgundy palette, which is why they are one of my favorites of 2021. Alright, the last palette I'm mentioning as my favorite of 2021 are the Birdstone palette from BH Cosmetics. Oh, these palettes are beautiful, beautiful. There's a color story for every month of 2021 and I have all 12 of them. I have to say my least favorite is the one that came out in October, the Opal palette, which I'm quite disappointed because it's my birth month. I was expecting like the best of them all, but that palette is just disjointed. That's just a sentimental feeling on my part because I don't look at this palette as a color story. I look at them from the point of view of the shadows and colors in each of the palettes. So pretty much all the shimmers in this palette have like different formulas. So there's a glitter in each of the palettes and there's also like a potty shimmer in each of the palette. Then you have like a glittery shade, shiny metallics, you see. So they are both silver, but you can see that they are different formulas. So that's like potty soft and that's like your very shimmery shimmer. So that is what I like about this palette and the pops of color, because sometimes you're using a palette and you need a specific shade that you can't find in any other palette. But what I found in all of this palette, in one palette or the other, I always seem to find the pop of color I want. Like today I needed this exact yellow, mysterious kind of yellow, which is not very common in any of my palettes. I had to dig into this palette and just use this shade. It's absolutely beautiful. These are the other two shimmers in this palette. I mean, you think about it, a very small palette. Most of them I bought on sale, but they are so beautiful. And the pops of colors, sometimes you can't find them anywhere else. Honestly, they are so unique and they're so useful. I mean, take the turquoise palette. It's not every day that you find, you know, this kind of blue anywhere. Look at that in this very reasonably priced palette. The only thing I don't like is just that glitter. And if I'm being honest, there's been times that the glitters have been useful, but I just feel I can't help but think I wish that they had put something else in the palette. And look at the glitter in this in this palette. It's absolutely beautiful. You just swatch that blue and then put the glitter on top of it. Look at that. That is so beautiful. I like the fact that they are unique. I like the fact that they complement other palettes in my collection, because I can just reach for a pop of color that doesn't exist in any other palette, in any of these 12 palettes. Honestly, they are so unique and they are so useful when it comes to doing your looks. These other two are one of my favorites, the Amethyst palette and the Period palette. And again, it's because of the pop of color in the palette. I mean, this green, oh my. Look, just look at that. That in the inner corner is absolutely yummy. It's so weird finding them in other palettes. You know, those pop of colors, they are so unique. And look at the color story in the Amethyst palette. Let's just swatch this one. Look at that purple. So beautiful. And the lilac in that palette. That's the purple. And that's the lilac. And the quality of the mattes and the shimmers in all of the palettes are so beautiful. So beautiful. If not for the glitters, they would be perfect. Alright, I know I cheated a lot. I cheated a lot showing you more than one palette, but it's just sometimes some of these palettes you can't look at them in isolation, especially when they come as a set or they are similar, which was why I showed you as a set or more than one palette. An honorary mention is the Viziat Etendo, is it Bijou palette, which again I don't know where it is, but I've got to mention that palette as well. Kind of stood out for me in 2021, even though it came out late. I think I got it about October or something, but it's an absolutely beautiful palette, especially the shimmers in that palette. They are out of this world. They are so beautiful. So I have to mention that as well. Unfortunately, it didn't kind of fit into my 15, but I just thought it was worthy of mention. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing my favorite 15 palettes of 2021. If you have enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'll see you.